It's National Cancer Research Month, and to celebrate the work being done to fight the disease, Perspective Therapeutics rang the opening bell here at the New York Stock Exchange. Joining me now to talk about the company's work in fighting this disease is Perspective Therapeutics CEO, Thijs Spoor. Thijs, congratulations and welcome to the Stock Exchange.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me, Chris.
Your company is a publicly traded firm, recently passed $1 billion market cap. How are you trying to improve cancer research and treatment?
Well, no, thank you. We're really excited about the support we're getting from the street. One of the things that's important to us is targeting cancer from the inside out. We take a different approach. A lot of people have heard about radiation therapy and how that works in the patient. That goes from the outside in, but it hits a lot of healthy tissue. We do it the other way around, and we design a drug to go right into the tumor and blow up the cancer on its own from the inside out.
Interesting. And where is this in FDA approval?
So we're in phase 1 studies in the US. We have 2 different drugs in 2 different trials in the US. The first drug is in melanoma, and it's targeting patients with really advanced melanoma where we hope to make a difference. We also have another drug that's targeting neuroendocrine tumors, and these are the special kind of glandular tumors, kind of like what Steve Jobs had, where we can actually go in and help patients with these neuroendocrine tumors. We're doing the phase 1, which is safety and efficacy in patients with cancer.
For a patient, what is the commitment to treatment? How long does it last? Is it an oral pill that they take? How does it work?
Sure, so we do sterile injectables. So it's a very tiny amount of liquid that gets injected in the patient's veins. The amount of material we use, because it's radioactive, is so small, you wouldn't know it's there. The patient might think it's almost a saline injection. With one of our programs, they get 3 different doses, so 8 weeks apart. So they come into the hospital, they get an infusion for a few minutes, 8 weeks later, follow-up scan, 8 weeks again for the last dose. On the neuroendocrine side, we do that about 4 times versus 3.
What are the metrics that you want to meet as a publicly traded company?
So we like to look at everything for shareholders' best interest. We have an unrelenting focus on safety and quality. So first and foremost, we cannot do anything if it's not done safely. Once that hits and we focus on our quality assurance programs, we want to make sure those are real. But for investors, we want to make sure we deliver data, meaningful data, real-time data, doing our best to do best possible innovations. We're building up our infrastructure. We keep inventing new molecules. And at this point, we're really happy that we have support from Wall Street.
I see you have a recent partnership with Bristol Myers Squibb. What are you hoping to get out of that partnership?
So a lot of cancer is such a tough enemy to try and go after, and so very few drugs work purely on their own. And so we've had a great support from Bristol Myers Squibb to give us one of their drugs called Opdivo to be used in conjunction with patients, so we can throw everything we can at patients with cancer. And what they've been generous enough to do is really support us with quality data, quality product, and so that combined we can have a better effect than either component on its own.
I see another partnership with Stony Brook University that's out on Long Island. Where does that stand?
So it's really interesting collaboration between our scientists and their scientists. We really believe that we follow the science and see where it takes us, and right now it's taking us to amazing patient potential outcomes. With Stony Brook, we've actually licensed in a technology that can do some pretty amazing things to help antibodies and ADCs actually target cancer cells directly, and then we target the things that light up with the antibodies and ADCs.
I see a recent pricing of an $80 billion offering for common stock and some pre-funded warrants. What do you want to do with that funding?
Yeah, so the $80 million that we raised is really helpful for actually increasing our manufacturing footprint. We have to have just-in-time manufacturing of these products. They only last 1 day, and so they need to be placed in nodes around the country. So the money we've raised is actually allowing us to go a little earlier and to actually build up the manufacturing earlier so we can have earlier access to the drug to patients.
What do you see as the price point for these drugs?
So there's other drugs out there currently approved. Novartis has 2 drugs in the space that are priced at about $50,000 to $60,000 a treatment, times 3 or 4 treatments. What's really extraordinary is the benefits these patients can get. And so thankfully the reimbursement system already supports radiopharmaceuticals. We're doing our best to make them hit harder and faster and then disappear without any safety problems.
Interesting. And with insurance, how much could a patient potentially expect to pay for these treatments?
So most of it's actually covered by patient's insurance. A lot of your cancer therapies are covered, and actually the healthcare system does reward this kind of innovation as to where we go. It's not an oral tablet, it's part of a procedure where they actually get the dose directly.
May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, Women's Health Month. There are a lot of things to celebrate and really shed light on in the month of May. What do you think our viewers should know?
So in terms of thinking about all the various disease states out there, what's extraordinary is that innovation exists everywhere. America is a phenomenal country to innovate, bring new ideas. A lot of our discoveries came out of labs from the University of Iowa. And by bringing innovations forward, one tumor at a time, we can try and address cancer. Cancer is so complex. If you think about breast cancer, it's 80 different kinds of tumors. You have to treat each one separately.
It's interesting. We've seen studies that show women in particular are getting cancer earlier in life, specifically breast cancer, that is. Why do you think that's the case?
So we're actually seeing a growth of cancer across the board. Some of that is due to earlier diagnoses. And so things where if you actually use active screening, which we should, earlier, we pick up more diseases earlier. There's also a lot of things that are changing in the environment. So things in our diet, environmental carcinogens, exposure to things. But a big driver, thankfully, is awareness. So people are knowing to go to their doctor earlier, to not just live with something, to get it addressed earlier and earlier. And across the board, we have to really be thoughtful about how we actually screen people. And if we screen them, put them only on the right therapy.
In terms of a timeline for these treatments being usable by a patient with the approval process as you've laid out, when do you think a patient could actually get access to this?
So patients can get access now during the clinical trial environment, and that is a pretty rigorous program that's run to make sure patients can actually have access to things as they emerge. As we think through various approval pathways, we're probably not going to be commercialized on the market till 2027, but that's because we have to do a lot of safety and testing along the way to get the best possible version of the product out to patients.
And for our viewers, walk through how rigorous that process is, what all it entails, so that they know when something does get approval, how much safety that provides them.
Yeah, so a lot of what we do first we do animal work. And because our drugs are radioactive, we have a different version that's completely safe. It just gives an image. So you can see where in the body the drug goes and without doing anything harmful, only where it's going and making sure it works. So we image an animal, then we try treating animals and seeing if we can cure the animals with a very similar tumor to a human. Then we image a human. If we image the human, we can tell in advance if the patient will respond or not respond. So we really make sure we don't expose patients to things if they should not respond to the drug, and we can see in advance if that happens. Once we get on the safety side of testing, we treat patients. We watch everything. We make sure that their blood chemistry is okay. We make sure the lab functions are okay, their kidneys are working properly. We track all that safety data to really get exactly the right dose that we want to give future patients. So any patient coming into a clinical trial, the gift they give is knowledge for future patients with the disease in order to make sure that everything gets optimized for patients that show up.
Are there improvements that you're trying to make to these treatments along the way?
There's a lot of improvements we want to figure out. The molecule is locked in place. We know what that looks like. But the question is, how much do we give and how often? Sometimes you'll take a drug every day. Sometimes you'll take it once a month. And so we want to find that right interval so we can hit the cancer hard and fast, let your body recover, give your body time to recover, get healthy again, and then hit the tumor once more.
Okay, good. Tace Spoor, CEO of Perspective Therapeutics, publicly traded company, here at the New York Stock Exchange, ringing the opening bell at Tace. Thank you.
Great, Kristen. Thanks so much.